Hello, this is Beheler and Mark Dempsey coming to you from the National Convergence Technology Center. And our topic today for the HI-TEC conference is successful scaling, strategies to expand the capacity and impact of your program. We're all committed to dissemination and helping others to be successful within the ATE community. And one of the essential words in getting that accomplished is the word scaling. You can see our pictures here. We're not going to take the bandwidth to record our live pictures. Obviously, I'm on the left and Mark is on the right. Our agenda is to start with explaining just a little context about who we are. And we've actually scaled two things. One is our community of practice of 76 colleges that we work with, and the other is our business and industry leadership team, which we call the BILT. And we're going to finish this up by talking to you about what you can do in the area of scaling. So who are we? The National Convergence Technology Center focuses on IT and communications. We are based at Collin College in Frisco, Texas. We're funded by the NSF first in 2004 as a regional center, and then in 2012 as a national center, and we're still funded as a national center. We support IT infrastructure programs across the nation. We align our curriculum almost 100% with business need. Our BILT drives our initiatives all the way through, and we are successful across the nation in increasing enrollment and completion and job placement. Our community of practice officially is 76 schools, and we also work with others that in a less formal way. Again, we are co-led by the business and industry leadership team. They are not a group that rubber stamps what we do. They are a group that actually leads us to do what we do. And we do provide quite a lot of professional development for IT faculty. Here are our 76 colleges across the nation. We have done outreach to all states. We've obviously been a little more successful in some than others to get people to agree to join our network. And once they see the benefit, most do. But we wanted you to get an idea that we really are coast to coast. So what's it mean to scale? Scale means achieving a more efficient, effective, and widespread adoption of an innovation and getting a huge bang for the time and money invested. This comes from Fast Company. There are lots of definitions for scaling. Here's another one. Scaling is similar to replication of a successful approach to doing something, but it's not a recipe. In other words, it isn't exactly replication. Edutopia has another way of looking at scaling, and this particular way of looking at scaling is actually originated with Dr. Chris Dede, who's a professor at Harvard. He says there are 5 different elements or dimensions of scaling. Depth is to identify what is essential about your innovation. What does a copy of your innovation have to have in it to make it essentially successful? Sustainability is focusing on the effectiveness of the goal. Spread is allowing some modifications, letting go of making sure that exactly what you have is what somebody else has. And then shift is a change in ownership. When somebody else owns your innovation, they get to make it theirs and adapt it to fit what they need. And then evolution is making sure that you're ready to adapt to the next iteration. Continuous improvement kind of undergirds this whole approach. Mark, would you like to take it over?
Sure. Another way of looking at scaling is the 6 steps identified by a Barclays UK study, which is referenced in a Forbes article. Number 1, commit to grow. You need to have the will and the ambition to scale. Identify the goals and share the vision. Number 2, you need to build a management skill set. It takes more than just one person to scale. It can't just be the CEO deciding to do it. You need a full team with a complementary set of skills to pull this off. Number 3, foster collaborations. This refers to partnerships, the external engagements, the external alliances that you're going to need to help with the scaling. Number 4, establish standard processes. For effective scaling, you're going to need repeatable processes. That Barclays study mentioned that flexibility can sometimes be the enemy of growth. You can't always be flexible and make it up as you go. You really do need standardized, repeatable processes. Number 5, identify core competencies. What's the unique thing that makes this program, this innovation competitive? Is it the brand, the technology, the know-how, the system? Whatever it is that's unique, make sure you know what that is. And finally, number 6, articulate the strength. You have to be able to communicate your core competency to the external customer. Make sure it's clear to customers why this product or this innovation is competitive. So we're going to take the Edutopia 5 dimensions and the Barclays UK 6 steps and look at those through 2 case studies, programs that we've scaled here at the CTC. As Ann mentioned, we have the CCN, the Convergence College Network. That's our community of practice of 76 colleges across the country. And we have the BILT model, Business Industry Leadership Team. So, what is a community of practice? A community of practice is a group of people who share a concern, a set of problems, a passion, and who deepen their knowledge and expertise by interacting with one another on an ongoing basis. That's the Boulderbeck definition. You can also think of the Middle Age guilds. Back in the day, that was a group of professionals, blacksmiths, masons, bakers, that honed their knowledge in communities, teaching and helping each other, sharing the know-how. That kind of an approach still works today. Another fun way to think about this is a story about Xerox repairmen. These repairmen would have lunch together and share war stories about customers and the products. They soon realized they knew more collectively as a group than they could ever learn from the manuals that Xerox was publishing. Their joint problem solving was far more effective and more powerful. No one person can know everything, so they pooled their know-how together. That was their community practice.
Okay, I'll take over from here. We're going to talk about the evolution of CTC's community. We started sharing our curriculum and materials and processes developed by the grant from the early stages of the CTC, 2004, 5, 6 timeframe. Our idea at that point was the curriculum we developed would be called Curriculum in a Box. This was kind of mimicking what the certification companies were doing in the certified curriculum to go after such certifications as Novell and Microsoft. The Curriculum in a Box was disseminated by our website. We had syllabus, we had the learning modules, the labs, the classroom slides, assessments, basically soup to nuts, and it was free. Well, that's all well and good. However, there's a bit of a problem there. The problem was that the adopters had questions, so we needed to answer. In the regional center, there were only 2 of us, and one of us wasn't even full-time. So the adopters had questions. They needed to figure out how to adapt it to their own needs. We were saying, nope, you have to adopt it. And the assistance was all provided by the central staff of about 1.5 people. And we realized we could not mentor 20 schools one-to-one, and that was our goal. They had questions about things like lab equipment and how does convergence fit? Do the businesses really hire people that have this sort of training? And how can I bring my faculty up to speed? So our solution was to enlist other mentors. Very early on, we started presenting about what we were doing at conferences, and other colleges were interested in joining us. In the early days, we had Orange Coast College and Fox Valley College and Lansing Community College jump on board. There wasn't anybody in Texas originally, interestingly enough. However, our National Vision Committee for our center wanted us to expand beyond just those partners and get at least 6 more schools, and that was around 2006. But we were still doing one-to-one assistance. We used those first 3 colleges who were a little more mature in the processes, and we had them actually mentor schools as well as the people on the staff of the CTC. The problem is it still was not scalable enough. So our solution was to basically create a mentored college board of the more mature schools, and we gave them actually some funding so that they could help with mentoring. We did triple the number of our mentors, and the more mentors shared and led various different parts of the presentations and answered questions about the curriculum. We didn't have all the answers. We still don't have all the answers, but at that time it became more of a sharing amongst a larger group. And as the college interest grew, we needed more and more mentors. And we decided to change it into what we called the Convergence College Network, as opposed to the Mentored College Network. because the mentored college network had the connotation that in fact that the center was mentoring even some of these big colleges that had programs that they didn't call convergence, but really were convergence. So we changed it into the Convergence College Network when that is a mesh network, meaning that everybody helps everybody. Some people are more mature than others, but essentially everybody helps everybody as a part of the network. So instead of pushing out curriculum in a box and one size fit all, and instead of one-to-one mentoring and trying to allow people to change things, we are now working with a leadership team, group sharing, and mesh connections. All the colleges have the opportunity to express their concerns, ask their questions of everybody else in the network, and most usually when a question is asked, there are many people that weigh in on the answer. Mark?
All right, so Ann went through the evolution of the community practice, the CCN. So now we can talk about how it looks today. How is this scaled group organized? We have 76 schools right now across 28 states. There's a picture there of our last in-person meeting last summer. We had 34 schools and 71 people come from across the country to our meeting. So here's a list of what the CTC offers to CCN. We offer professional development, that's working connections, twice a year. We offer some limited travel reimbursement help, so faculty can attend conferences, working connections if they're out of state. We have a robust resource wiki where we post meeting minutes, conference presentations, and shared curriculum. That wiki is free. The CCN obviously offers a way to plug into this active network of IT faculty from across the country, all of whom are committed to their students and to keeping their program aligned with employer needs. We also provide access to our national BILT meeting content. The BILT meets 4 times a year and creates an annual updated list of knowledge, skills, and abilities. CCN members are invited to all those meetings, and they have access to that updated list. We also help maximize members' own local BILT relationships. If a CCN school wants to get a BILT up and running, we can help. We also have some virtual labs that we provide, A+, Network+, Security+. And finally, CTC leadership can give feedback when needed on grant proposals. In return, here are the responsibilities for CCN members. We want them all to engage with the group and share their expertise. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. We want them to develop an active BILT locally at their colleges that meets regularly and also prioritizes the job skills that guides their programs, just like we do here at the national level. We want CCN colleges to attend all of our meetings and activities. That includes both special topic webinars we host and also the quarterly meetings where we all get together to talk about problems and share resources. We want their help recruiting other schools to join the CCN as we continue to scale this effort out. And finally, we ask them to submit a yearly report of impact data that we roll up for our own grant reporting. Now we can talk more specifically about engagement. As I mentioned, we have 4 quarterly meetings. We do 3 on the web, and usually we do 1 more in July in person. That's the picture you saw earlier. This summer, we're not doing that. We'll have a 4th webinar in its place. We offer special 1-hour webinars on specific topics. A lot of times, those topics are driven by the needs and the interests of the community. They will talk about something, we will find an expert to share with them all about that. We sometimes also bring CCN member colleges with us to educator conferences. We manage email strings that happen asynchronously. These are sidebar discussions that happen between the meetings. Someone will send me a question, I will forward it to the rest of the schools in the network. Invariably, 4 or 5 people write back with answers. It's a powerful example of how we leverage know-how of the entire community. I already mentioned the resource wiki. There's also offline collaborations. People are forging relationships and friendships and collaborations that we're not even aware of. Another big part of engagement is to scale this community beyond the grant. And to do this, we're developing regional hubs at 7 schools around the country. When the CTC is gone, these hubs will continue the work of the community. There are 2 strategies of how we encourage engagement using grant funds as a carrot. We have levels of engagement. It's like a frequent flyer program. The more a college is engaged, the greater the benefits. Level 1 provides more benefits than Level 2. Most of those benefits come in the form of travel reimbursement funding, and that helps faculty attend working connections in Texas or conferences around the country like HI-TEC. To help quantify who's classified at which level, we have a point system that scores different elements of engagement and participation. The more points you get, the higher level you can possibly attain. Now that we've given you a picture of how the CCN works, let's go back and look at Edutopia's 5 dimensions of scaling. Is a CCN scaling effort following these guidelines? Let's take a look. So if depth is about identifying what's essential about the innovation, I think it's very clear to us that the essential component for the CCN is supporting IT programs through mutual sharing of know-how. We want to help connect educators and employers across the country to solve common challenges and make students workforce ready. That's the goal. And this, of course, helps address budget and knowledge gaps. Not everyone has the same expertise or the same know-how or the same budget, but together, the CCN community can support each other. Sustainability is really about focusing on the effectiveness of the goal. As Ann mentioned, it's not really a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. There are different levels of CCN engagement. Colleges are all different. Some colleges have a single professor trying to do the best that he or she can all alone. Other colleges have 6 faculty members with administrator buy-in, and it's this huge, big, robust program. So it really varies across the different colleges. Colleges can engage and participate with the CCN as their unique situation demands. It does not need to work the same for everyone. Spread. This is making modifications to make the innovation as effective as possible. Ann mentioned the evolution of the CCN from a very cost-heavy one-on-one mentoring to a more efficient sharing community, the mesh network. We also rely a lot here on low-cost digital tools to keep the costs down. We have the free wiki, we have email, we have Zoom meetings. It's also free just to join the CCN. The costs are kept down to increase the spread. The shift, the change in ownership. This is that moment when others assume responsibility for the group. Ann mentioned we have a leadership group helping steer the CCN. I mentioned also that CCN membership often drives a lot of our meeting content. This helps create a sense of ownership. It's not just us pushing everything down, members are also pushing up as well. I think a good example of this is that ongoing Q&A email string I mentioned earlier. We're not making that happen. It's happening organically from the CCN membership. They're owning it. The last thing is evolution, making sure that you're ready to adapt the next iteration. Part of this is watching that iteration, how it unfolds. Maybe you can learn something from it. Our regional hubs each have their own plan and strategy. They have their own way they want to do this. So we are definitely watching how they build those hubs, so maybe we can learn from them. Maybe they're finding some better way to do something that we can use on the national CTC level. So looking at all of this, I do think the CCN is following Dr. Dede's 5 dimensions of scaling. So Ann, do you want to talk now about the BILT?
Sure, thank you. In the ATE community, the acronym BILT is actually fairly prevalent. People kind of understand that there is something magic about a BILT team that is a business and industry leadership team. It's a method of engaging businesses in a more substantive way than just having them on a business advisory council where they come once or twice a year and look at your curriculum and eat, in some cases, a rubber chicken dinner, and then go back there and go their merry way. We actually put the businesses in a co-leadership role for the program, and it's been that way from the very beginning. The picture down there is the businesses that are in the room that are voting on the KSAs that they expect from the right skilled individuals 12 to 36 months in the future, because we're not very fast at creating curriculum as educational institutions. And then you see that Polycom right in the middle, the conference phone in the middle. There are at least as many people on that phone participating nationally as are in the room. So what's a BILT? Well, it's a whole process for business engagement. There's 7 essential elements. It needs to convene, really, I'm going to say 3 to 4 times a year. 2 to 3 is minimum. Be sure to allow time on the BILT agendas, especially the 3 that aren't the ones that you're looking at the KSAs. Be sure to allow time for them to talk about industry trends, because they can let you know what's coming down the pike so that you can get ready and maybe focus on curricular changes a bit earlier. The BILT needs to focus on a single discipline, not multiple disciplines, because you want people that are real subject matter area experts in what you're focusing upon for your program. Do invite faculty to attend. They can hear firsthand for the employers, but faculty do not monopolize the discussion. They can ask questions, but primarily this is a business meeting and we get to listen from them. We do have the business people prioritize that they want from graduates 12 to 36 months in the future. And they have a lively discussion on these items as well. They'll vote, but then they're going to try to convince everybody else in the room that the way that they voted was the right way. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Then faculty take the prioritized list and map that list to the existing curriculum and figure out where the gaps are and what things needed to be filled in those gaps. And then there's feedback back to the BILT regarding how the implementation occurred based on the prioritized KSAs. If in fact something cannot be done that the business and industry leadership team wants, then it's really, really important to bring that up with them, because sometimes they can help. Perhaps the issue is no money for some equipment for something new, or perhaps the issue might be that the faculty on staff at the college do not have the skills to teach something new. In some cases, the businesses may provide somebody who can be an adjunct, or they may provide free professional development for a team that we have at our working connections in the summer. BILT membership, who should be on it? They need to focus on the entry-level job, because the reality is we can't focus on the whole pathway from entry-level to mid-level to expert level. We have to focus on the starting positions, and that's usually what graduates from community colleges are going for anyway. The membership needs to include high-level technical executives who are responsible for keeping their companies in business. It needs to include first-line hiring managers, and it can have a few technicians, but usually the technicians are the ones that are doing the day-to-day work, and they may or may not have a grasp on the future, on what's going to be needed in the future. Notice that HR people are not listed in this list. It's not that they are excluded, but it's not appropriate to have just an HR person representing an entire company, because their information comes from the hiring managers in terms of what they're going to want, and it's sort of secondhand. The engaged BILT benefits students because they are first to be considered for internships, apprenticeships, job openings. It benefits faculty because I know faculty always want to teach appropriate skills to their students so they can get a job after their 2-year degree. Employers get a chance to connect with a pipeline of workforce-ready candidates as well. Now, how did we get to the BILT? Well, I was hired to grow IT enrollments right after 9/11 and right before the dot-com bust. Our enrollments in IT fell precipitously. We lost about 75% or 80% of them just almost overnight. And there was really no way to go ahead and have a full enrollment at that point, because people were not going to go into those particular careers, the IT and communications, when their neighbors were being laid off. So I called together 12 representatives from major corporations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I gave them a wonderful breakfast of donuts and coffee, and that was plenty. We talked about the future. They liked the idea of talking about the future, because actually at that time, the future was looking pretty bleak at their offices. They were laying people off, and it wasn't very fun. So we assembled the BILT, and actually we didn't assemble the BILT to identify voice over IP. They identified voice over IP as the next new thing, and we developed our curriculum around that. We used something called PCAL, Performance Criterion Analysis Method, as our basis for deciding or prioritizing the KSAs to create curriculum. And it's a similar process to doing a DACM, but it's definitely a modified process. The regional BILT supported the regional grant. We had companies from all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but it turns out many of those companies were branch offices of national companies. So when we ended up becoming national, it was a logical extension to keep using many of the people that were already on the BILT and add others from across the US. And as it is right now, we still have a lot of people that are actually based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but we have a lot of people that are across the nation as well. On our CCN member colleges, we had 19 schools follow all the essentials of the BILT, and we had another 16 that we're following at least one, and we're continuing at the behest of our National Visiting Committee. We're continuing to educate the colleges on why they need to implement a BILT. Now, disseminating it, we have lots of things you can work with now. We do workshops for people. We have a 60-minute BILT Basics workshop on our website. We have a 16-page text document, which we're going to be improving, but it's a text document that tells you all of what you need to know about implementing a BILT. Then we have a 10-minute video on how to do the job skills vote. We have a brochure there and we explain it. And we also have Google tools for capturing the votes from the business people and showing the average to them during the meeting. We've done lots of conference presentations and lots of one-on-one mentoring to organizations in Arizona, Iowa, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Washington, Florida, lots and lots of them. In 2019, we had 29 active companies, 3 web meetings, and we had 1 in-person vote. There's another picture of our in-person vote, and notice you've got the conference phone on the table again. So, economic downturn, we decided to make lemonade from lemons, and we looked for the next big thing. We put a small regional group together and came up with the next big thing, which at that point was voice over IP. And it was actually controversial to have voice over IP and data all on the same network. And the people that started getting involved with us organically grew nationwide. We're to a point that we have regular engagement 4 times a year, nationwide adoption, and we're doing training nationwide for the colleges to implement the program. So, would you like to talk about the 6 steps to scaling and how that fits, Mark?
Sure, yes, thank you. Let's look at the CTC's efforts to scale the BILT model across the country through the lens of those 6 steps from the Barclays UK study. So, the first step, committing to grow. You definitely need buy-in for the BILT model. The faculty and the administrators have to be fully on board. You also need to determine why the employers want to commit to it. We call this the WIFM. What's in it for me? Each employer will have a different motivation for participating. As you talk to them and share your vision, you need to identify their purpose. It could be that they want access to a pipeline of graduates. It could be that they want to talk to other companies and be in the room to hear those trends. It could be something more altruistic. They want to give back because they're successful. You want to talk to them and figure out their WIFM so you can get them committed to the effort. Building the management skill set. So here you want to teach the process to everyone who's involved, to the faculty, to the employers, to administrators. You're setting expectations. You're assembling a team of champions. Remember, we mentioned that it's not just one person doing this. You need the whole group doing it. Everyone has a role to play. You need employers and educators. Too often, it's just this one faculty member wanting to do a BILT. That's not enough. You need more people involved to make it work, especially administrators. Part of this management team also needs to include the staff who's managing the back end, logistics of the meetings. Foster collaborations. For the BILT, it's the frequent meetings that strengthens the relationships, whether it's faculty to employer or employer to employer. You'd also engage employers outside of the meetings. There are opportunities for guest speaking and job fairs, things like that. So it's not just the meetings, it's the overall collaborations that you're building. That's part of the scaling process. You want to establish standard processes. We mentioned the toolkit we have. That explains in great detail the many steps for things like recruiting BILT members or holding your job skills vote. When you're voting on the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, and abilities, you're looking 12 to 36 months out because the wheels of academia, as you know, turn very slowly. So we want to be future focused, so by the time you get your ducks in a row, you've met the mark the BILT has identified for you. This is all laid out. It's a big process. Identify the core competencies. I think this is pretty clear. The purpose of the BILT model is to keep curriculum aligned with the evolving IT workforce needs. So you want that job skills list every year. That's the cornerstone of the BILT. And every year you'll use that updated list to make sure your curriculum aligns and that you're teaching what the BILT members want students to learn. And along the way as well, you're filling in those gaps with frequent trends updates. These are the core competencies for the BILT model. And the last step here is articulating the strength. We just talked about the core competencies. Now you have to communicate that. Make sure everyone understands the value of the BILT model. Your customers here are your BILT members and your educators and administrators. So make sure everyone understands how important this all is. One essential part of this is giving regular updates to the BILT so they feel heard. Tell them how you implemented their recommendations. And if you weren't able to implement them all, say so, because maybe they can help solve the problem. Those are the 6 steps in the Barclay study. So I think you can see how they connect with what we're doing in scaling the BILT model out to the rest of the country. So what can you do? Here's a recap. I combined the Edutopia list with the Barclays list. Understand why your program is worth scaling. What's special about it? Why should someone else replicate what you're doing or try to adopt it? The next 2 bullets there are related. Make sure you have a commitment to scaling it. You can't just say, I want to scale it. You need to get some commitment from others. And this group who's committing should be your team of champions. They have bought in and they're ready to help scale. The next 2 are also related. Identify how to make adjustments without losing the innovation's effectiveness. Don't worry about trying to do the same thing over and over again perfectly. Identify the most important part. And consider ways to lower the cost. Dr. Dede said this very funny thing. He said, think about an amazing, high-performance, expensive sports car. That's great, but maybe you can't always have a high-performance, expensive sports car. Maybe in your scaling efforts, you have to settle for 30% of the cost, but you notice that you're still getting 70% of the power and impact. So it's not as good as the original, but it may be good enough to have an impact. You want to have clear processes that are repeatable. In scaling, you need to be able to teach and share your processes over and over again. You also want to foster the networking and the collaboration, so you have people sharing the work with you. Even better, these people are all offering different skill sets and expertise. Look for ways to encourage a shift so the innovation is not just yours anymore. Let the group take it over so it becomes theirs. Once they're buying in, they feel like it's theirs, the innovation is more likely to persist. Be ready for the next iteration. At some point during the scaling process, it's going to change hands again as another generation picks it up and goes with it. Watch that process. Maybe it can teach you something you didn't think about before. And finally, share your success stories. Articulate your strength. Showcase how well your innovation is meeting its goals. It's all about impact and communicating that to others. So that's a quick rundown of some of the things that you should consider if you want to scale innovation at your program.
Thank you very much for spending your time with us. If we can help you in any way, please reach out to us. We appreciate your time, and thank you for listening to our session at HITEC.
Thank you.